There are a couple of diesels that people just know, and if you manufacture them, you must get right. One of those is the SD40-2. This is the latest round of in-scale SD40-2s from Broadway Limited. We're going to drop this into an op session and give it a run through, but first, let's take a look at the model. The locomotive has all the detail that you expect from Broadway Limited, and upon closer inspection, we can see sharp paint lines and extremely small details like this tiny little warning sign right here that's less than 0.5 millimeter wide. I did try to read the text. I can't, but I do think it's okay with how small the detail is. There are a load of separately applied and painted details, and I have to say for a highly detailed model, it feels really solidly built. A lot of times, highly detailed in-scale models feel so incredibly fragile. It's not their fault, it's just that in-scale is small and the details are going to be very fragile. And sometimes they're so fragile that I'm scared to hold them. This one, while still delicate, feels more solid, and I'm more comfortable handling it relative to some other models. Now, this is the Paragon 4 version. I also have the Stealth version right here that I will be doing a number change on. For those of you that don't know, Broadway Limited to DCC ready locomotives are called Stealth. In-scale locomotives use the Next 18 connector, and all you have to do is remove 2 screws that hold the coupler, lift the body shell off, and install a decoder. Do be careful of the wires though for all those LEDs because there are several wires right around there. And I'm using an NCE Next 18 mobile decoder, but if you wanted to use something like a Soundtracks decoder, Stealth units already have the speaker installed, so all you have to do is plug in that sound decoder. Speaking of sound, let's go back to the Paragon 4 version. Now, in-scale gets dinged in terms of sound quality, and a lot of in-scalers don't do sound at all, mainly because of that. But I will say that the quality of the sound coming out of this model might be the best of any of my models, including other Broadway Limiteds. There's just a slightly richer characteristic compared to other in-scale sound units, and that just may be the nature of the body. This is my first sound SD40-2, but it just sounds a little richer and a little bit less tinny. Okay, let's get down to business. We're going to use both of these in our op session. The Paragon 4 one is going to be our road switcher, and the Stealth Loco is going to be our yard switcher. Let's get started. The Stealth locomotive, which I'm going to renumber 6106, heads out to do a little bit of switching to get ready for an inbound freight train. Now an inbound freight train comes in to drop off some cars as well as pick up the ones that 6106 has pulled out. (6106) then proceeds to reattach where it was clear for the crossing and then shove the cars into position to be picked up by the freight train. The freight train then shoves all the drop-offs back into a place where they're going to be out of the way so that it can pick up those cars that were pulled out. Once it has dropped off all of those, it can move to go and grab those pickups and head on out. And now 6106 can move into position to store these cars in the yard. The first thing that it does is it pulls them off the main line so that it can work on the runaround track so that the cars do not foul the main. It then shoves them into a position that it can do a runaround move to be able to get into the proper position to be able to store the cars in the stub-in yard. Once this is done, 6106 can get out of the way as 6105 comes out to go grab its cars from siding number 2 in the yard and head up to West Valley to work those two industries. As 6105 is positioning for a runaround, a westbound coal train comes through, just passing through, nothing to drop off here. (6105) completes a runaround move to get in position to do the West Valley switching and is going to do a reverse pull up the mountain to get to West Valley. Once it arrives, it immediately begins switching the cement distributor. Now it's going to pull the 2 cars out of there and then put the 3 cars in place and use those as a handle to switch out other areas. So the 2 pickups are going to be stored on the lumberyard siding with the 1 box car that also needs to be picked up from the lumberyard, basically using them as a handle to pick everything up. And now the 3 hoppers can be dropped off at the cement company. Once this is done, we need to pull our 3 pickups off that lumberyard siding so we can drop off those 2 boxcars in the lumberyard. We're going to park these just on the other side of the turnout to the lumberyard, and then we are going to position the 2 boxcars for the lumberyard. Once this is done, we can go grab our pickups and start the long shove back to the East Valley yard. And that is it. Well, that was a ton of fun, and I'm happy to add a beautiful SD40-2 to my layout with sound, which makes some parts of operations even more fun and immersive. The locomotive did fine on the endurance test, by the way, as well. I have a link to both of these locomotives in the description, and as well as the decoder that I used in the stealth model. Thank you all so much for watching. Until next time, I'm Jimmy from the DIY and Digital. Stay safe, be kind, and happy railroading.